How tough was it making a name for yourself in New York when you got the law degree?
It was actually pretty easy because of the background I just told you about. Yeah,
wow.
I was working at the Legal Aid Society for about 5 years, the Public Defender's Office. I wanted to get as much experience as I could there. After 2016, I was like, look, I'm voting for Trump. And everybody was like, we don't want you here anymore. They actually tried to fire me. We had this internal trial. I wiped the floor with them. Then I left on my own terms and went and started my own law firm.
All right, guys, one of the top lawyers in the world right now, Joseph McBride. Thanks for coming on, man.
It's good to be with you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You're part of some really important cases right now.
Indeed.
These are going to shift the entire world.
That's there's a fight out there between a lot of things, but fundamentally at the base level, it's the great battle between good and evil. And I believe that my clients and myself and people like you are on the right side of it.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about some of these cases because they're active, but could you describe a few for the audience?
Sure. So I think in terms of big celebrity cases right now, the big one that is all over the place is my representation of Andrew and Tristan Tate. Mm-hmm. That case is going well. There's obviously a global sort of team of lawyers. I am the head of Team USA. And I work in conjunction with the team in the United Kingdom and in Romania as well. Some very unfair things happened to them in Romania. We were able to use the American and are using the American legal system to exercise their rights here to sue for defamation. And each step of the way, as more revelations of truth come, that affects the case in Romania. We can talk about that in whatever detail you want. I represent a bunch of different people openly and privately in Trump world. Mm-hmm. I represent certain members of Congress. I usually keep that pretty private, but I've been doing some political fixing in Washington, D.C. now for a few years. And of course, I've represented numerous January 6ers, over 20 of them. I've taken people up before the January 6th committee. I represent people involved in the Trump probe. And in terms of January 6th cases, the first one I took was Richard Barnett's case, Big O Barnett. He was the guy who had his feet on Speaker Pelosi's desk. And probably the most infamous of all the cases, or difficult, was and is the case of Ryan Nichols. We achieved what we believe to be a reasonable result in the end. But that was a case where they really went after him and his family, not so much because of what he did, because of what he said that day.
Right.
So January 6th is largely about the political persecution of Trump supporters for their beliefs, often the color of their skin, and certainly their system of belief. And it's a very unfortunate thing, but glad, humbled, and honored to have been a part of all of it from the ground level up and to continue to do it for the time being for today.
Yeah, that's massive. And I heard some of those Jan 6 people are still in prison.
Oh, yeah.
And they still haven't gone to trial. It's been 3 years.
Some of them. Most of them are going to trial by now. But the first 3 years was very, very unfair. In the federal system, the standard is you don't get incarcerated pre-trial unless you're a danger to society or you're a flight risk. So we're talking about Bin Laden, El Chapo, that level. Even someone think about John Gotti or different mafia bosses were out for their Fed cases. So the standard is to leave people out and let them fight things from the outside because you're innocent until proven guilty and liberty is the norm. With regard to January 6th, there was a system, there was all these laws and this case law that went up to January 5th, 2021. And on January 7th, they created an entire new system to keep these people in jail during the pendency of their cases because most of them technically were innocent. And this is the world that we live in. The process is the punishment. You think about due process. That means that there's a system of laws in place that says that if you go to court, if they try to deprive you of your freedom, your money, your bank account, whatever it is, there's systems in place where you can defend yourself meaningfully and intelligently in court. They remove that stuff, put you in jail, front load the punishment. It doesn't matter what happens in the end because you've already been punished for something, whether you did it or not.
Crazy.
Yeah, so
they made a new law in 2 days.
It's not that they made a new law. They just started applying laws differently.
Got it.
Going to trial as a January 6er in Washington, D.C. would be the equivalent of getting a fair trial as an African-American man in 1945 Alabama. The judge is going to do what the judge is going to do because the judge hates you because of how you look, and that's the end of it. And it's the same thing with January 6ers. 96% Biden voters in Washington, D.C., not going to get a fair jury. These judges We're there in the cap.
As a B2B marketer, you know how noisy the ad space can be. If your message isn't targeted to the right audience, it just disappears into the noise. With LinkedIn ads, you could precisely reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant with LinkedIn targeting capabilities. You can reach them by job title, industry, company, and more. Stand out with LinkedIn ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. LinkedIn ads allows you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. You'll have direct access to and build relationships with decision makers. 1 billion members are on their platform, 180 million senior level executives, and 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B in technology. LinkedIn generated 2 to 5x higher return on ad spend than any other social media platform, and you'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world you operate in. 79% of B2B content marketers said LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. LinkedIn has been a great platform for me to also find interesting podcast guests. If you're interested, start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/social to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/social. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
On January 6th when it happened, lots of them are victims. They're emotional. They have just an objective hatred for these people, and there's no shot of a fair trial. That's why the conviction rate is almost 100%.
Crazy. So does something like that change your view on the judicial system?
No, because I became an attorney in response to my own brother's wrongful conviction. Right? I hadn't even gotten to college until my brother was wrongfully accused of a crime and then forced into a 15-year jail sentence. And when that happened, I watched my mom and dad, their hearts breaking on the couch, my brother going to jail for 15 years. I said, I have to do something. And so I decided to become a lawyer, which was a 10-year journey through law school and bar exams and college and all these things.
10 years.
10 years it took me, yeah. I had to apply to college and start, right? I didn't know what I was doing.
You're at ground zero.
Ground zero, bro. And by the time I was done, my brother maxed out of prison. He did 5.5 years, about 5 years in the box.
Oh, solitary?
Solitary.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That can ruin people.
And he went in a paranoid schizophrenic.
Oh my, that's even worse.
Yeah, well, they don't have, 65% of all people who are incarcerated have serious mental health issues.
Damn, it's that high?
Yeah, it's that high.
Holy crap.
So, my brother's in a home now. I love him, but it broke him. He came out a shadow of his former self. But be that as it may, we took something that was horrible and we turned it into something that was good. And, my clients generally say, Joe, there's something different about you. I feel like you get me, you understand me. It's like I've been through it. I know what it's like to be a family member in your position. I know what it's like to deal with the unfairness of the criminal justice system. I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm mixed race. I'm white and Puerto Rican. I didn't fit into any group. I've seen all types of stuff my whole life. And to be honest, I really didn't have any sense of purpose or direction where I was going before that. I always knew I was meant to do something important. But it took the tragedy of my brother, the losing 10 years of his life, in order for me to really have that purpose-driven life that I was born to have. And I take that fire in my belly and I apply it to everything that I do because I have to honor what happened to him, what happened to my family.
Wow, that's important as a lawyer because some lawyers you just can't even relate,
Most of them suck. I hate most lawyers. Yeah, they're terrible, They don't get it. It's like a doctor with bad bedside manners. You can tell the ones who care and you can tell the ones who just don't give a crap.
Absolutely, because you've been through it, you witnessed it.
Yeah.
Some of these lawyers never actually had personal matters tied to their cases, so they're just treating it like they learned it on paper.
Experience is the best teacher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And growing up in Brooklyn, most of the people you grew up with are either dead or in jail right now.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Dead or in jail. I mean, I grew up Brooklyn, in between Brooklyn and Long Island, depending on what was going on and what neighborhood was safe in the 90s. This was the era of Biggie and Pac. People were getting murdered and robbed and shot and killed all over the place. Other people were just trying to get out, but they tried to get out through the drug game or through gangs or through whatever it is. The vast majority of everybody I grew up with is dead, dying, or in jail. There's a handful of us, 3 or 4 of us who got out, and I'm actually doing business with them still till today.
Wow.
Because these are my day ones, my ride or dies. But everybody else, it's very, very unfortunate. But, the realities of life in New York City and the concrete jungle, it'll gobble you up if you don't have a good mom and dad, a good system of belief. some luck at the end of the day, and a willingness to change, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to survive and then to thrive.
Right. Did you find yourself getting caught up in that lifestyle at first?
Oh yeah. I was involved in that life for a while, a long time, despite the fact that I had two great, wonderful mom and dad, but I grew up lower middle class, didn't have a lot of the material things that I saw on TV that I wanted. So I cut corners and I broke laws and I did all types of stuff to as a means to an end. But it left me hardened. It left me with not much joy and meaning in my life.
Wow.
I had a very personal and deep encounter with the person who I know and consider to be Jesus Christ. At the age of 23, I had a life-changing experience. It changed my life in a day. I woke up that morning, one guy, went to bed that night, a completely changed man.
Dang.
And
was that in prison?
No, I never went to prison, thank God. But that was just that was sort of in the street. I was doing a construction job. I met a guy who was a Christian. He started witnessing to me about different things. I grew up in a Catholic family, so I had a background for it. And we just prayed, and during that prayer, I felt something come over me. I said, well, I explained it to him. He said, that's the Holy Spirit. Do you want more of that? I said, yeah. I surrendered myself to Jesus at that moment, and everything changed. Everything about my life changed. And the first thing that I ever felt God, or I heard God say to me in my life was, hey, listen, everything you've been through, everything you're carrying around, it's all gone. Take every burden you have. I'm going to remove it from your life right now. I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to tell you that I love you. The past doesn't matter. I just want you to change from this moment forward.
Wow.
And I honored it, and I took it. And look, I'm the furthest thing there is from perfection. I'm a flawed individual with many vices and many kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I surrender it all to God, and I give everything, every moment, every part of my life to Jesus Christ. And I say, Lord, direct my steps, direct my path. Apart from you, I'm a mindless beast, but I know that with you and through you, there's nothing we can't do together. And that's my path. Other people find it in Islam, other people find it in Judaism, other people find it in the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees. That's fine for them, but my path is through Christ.
I love it. Yeah, I love that there's that respect for other religions too.
Of course.
Because they're trying to use that as a division tactic.
No, I mean, that's unfortunate, We're all called to different things. We have different paths. This is my path. But, if you're born into a Muslim family in Saudi Arabia or to a Buddhist family in China or whatever it is, that's your path. That's where God and the universe puts you. You grow there, you become a good person there, and you find your way there. This is the path for me, and that's really all I can say about it. Anybody who's interested in it, I talk to them about it. Anybody who hates me because of it, I bless them. That's okay. You can hate me all day. But most of my friends, I have friends from I represent Andrew. Andrew's a devout Muslim now, right? We have a ton in common. I have so much more in common with him than I do with people who obviously don't believe in God. So it doesn't matter the faith. As long as you look up and you know that he's there, you and I are probably going to agree on most of the things in life.
I love it. How tough was it making a name for yourself in New York when you got the law degree?
It was actually pretty easy because of the background I just told you about.
Wow.
I was working at the Legal Aid Society for about 5 years, the Public Defender's Office. I wanted to get as much experience as I could there. I did great there. I won a lot of trials. Didn't make a lot of friends because it's a very lefty, sort of communist-driven organization. We didn't align politically, religiously, values-wise, whatever it was and is. And then after 2016, I was like, look, I'm voting for Trump. And everybody was like, we don't want you here anymore. They actually tried to fire me.
Wow.
Yeah, we had this internal trial. I wiped the floor with them. Then I left on my own terms. I went and started my own law firm. And all my friends who I grew up with, dead, not dead, but the ones who are still alive, were just like, when are you going to go to the feds? We got business for you. We got this, we got that. So literally month one of my law firm, when I opened it up in 2019, I made more in that month than I had the entire previous year.
Dang.
And by the time I was in 3 months and I had made more within the first 90 days of my law practice than I had in my previous 5 years of working at the Legal Aid Society.
Holy crap.
So I knew destiny, timing. I realized there was a ton of money out there to be made and grabbed in the world. I just went after it. And I think one of the things that distinguishes me from other lawyers is being willing to burn the ships, being willing to go where other people aren't willing to go, being willing to say, this is my set of principles. This is what I believe in. I'm going to go out there and put this energy and put these thoughts into the world. I'm going to make enemies. What else is new? People are going to not like me. I don't care about it. I want to find those quality people and those quality issues that I can represent and I can make a difference because they align with me, and I'll be able to fight with that passion, that deep, visceral passion that's in my soul. And everywhere I've gone, it's, you can't do this. Why are you saying that? Blah, 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 blah. But I'm to a place right now in my legal career where I'm very happy. And I believe it's largely in part because I stuck to my guns.
Absolutely. You're fulfilled, right?
Yes.
You're fighting a big mission here. It's not just money.
No. It's not just money at all. Money can come and go in an instant, right? You can be rich one day and poor the next. And I certainly hope that that's not the path for me. But at the end of the day, the Bible says to the person to whom much is given, much is required. And I want to be able to stand before God on Judgment Day and say, I did everything I possibly could do with the time and the talents and the treasures that you gave me in order to make a difference in this world. And I hope that I've earned my place in your kingdom to come. And that is what it's about for me. And, I'm in this world, but I don't belong to it.
Wow.
I'm just passing through and trying to conquer and heal and help and lift the vibration of everybody else around me, make the world a better place, one person at a time, before I'm gone.
That's huge. You put your ego 100% to the side.
I mean, look, it's what does it do? There are just so many things to be done. There are so many good and intelligent and important people in the world to meet and to collaborate with and to work with. And there's a great, massive, attack by evil on goodness in the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
They're attacking everything that's sacred, everything that's traditional, everything that's worked for the past 5,000 years. There's no time for ego. There's only time to get together to protect my family, to protect my children, to protect my wife, to protect my clients, and to hopefully make a difference in protecting my country.
Yeah, there's an attack on innocence right now. They're going after the kids, man.
Big time.
Big time.
I mean, they sang the song, "We're coming for your children." I mean, what else did I need to say?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff's in broad daylight that they're doing these days, too.
It is in broad daylight because evil is unchained at the moment. It's unafraid, and it's winning for the time being. But Scripture, whether you look at especially the Old Testament or you look at all the other holy books, you look at these battles, they're not the stories or the tales of easy battles, right? It's Moses freed the Israelites after years of servitude. It's Gideon with 300 people took on 300,000 men. It is David versus Goliath. These are the stories of what a few good men and women, or what a good man can do, even one man, when he listens to God, when he obeys God, despite the amount, the power, the numbers, the money, the weaponry that the enemy has. If God is with you, nothing can stand in your way.
Wow.
So 100 people charged up with God, believing in God, I'll take them, I'll bet on them all day, every day over the hordes of darkness.
I love that because there's some powerful enemies right now.
Big time.
Big time. Governments, big companies, big food, big pharma.
Yeah.
It's big time.
For sure. But, look, if you're willing to die figuratively and actually, whether that's sustained cancellation, worry about, if you're not worried about losing relationships, if you're not worried about being canceled, if you're not worried about what they can do to your mind, body, and soul, or they can't do anything to your soul, if you're just sold out, if you're like, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, then they can't touch you because you're going to find a way to adapt. You're going to find a way to overcome. You're going to find people like you, and God will help you.
Yep. A lot of celebrities sell their souls, man.
They do. It's very real. It's very real. But, what does a man have to gain? What does a man have if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Eternity is a long time. When 100 million years go by and you times it by 1 billion years, you just got there, just started. I'm not willing to risk all that for 100 years of anything on this earth. No way.
Right.
Right? Your soul is what's most precious, which is why they're all after it.
Yeah. Did you ever go against the state of New York in anything?
So I litigate sort of against the state of New York as a criminal defense attorney and in civil rights cases on a regular basis. But it's very hard to sue government. I'm suing the FBI,
Wow.
the NYPD, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. So it's in Washington, it's in New York. But the government builds procedural and administrative mechanisms into the laws to disincentivize people from suing them because it wants to be able to wrong you without being held accountable. So when the people write the laws, they write the laws not for you and for me, but to protect the powers that be.
Wow.
So it's hard to do it, but it's a worthwhile endeavor nonetheless.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It is insane. 96% conviction rate, and in criminal cases, it's 96, 97% of every case pleads out.
Wow.
Yeah, people don't even go to trial.
And FBI is similar numbers too.
Even higher.
Oh my God.
I think it's 99%.
That seems too high to me, just logically.
Well, it's the biggest organized crime family the world has ever seen, right? Yeah, America is the greatest country the world has ever seen. I believe that, bar none, no doubt about it. But when evil men obtain the mechanisms of power and use it for nefarious purposes, it becomes the biggest organized crime family that the world has ever known. And it's very powerful, and it's very unfortunate that these things happen.
It's crazy. I was seeing Trump on Aiden Ross the other day, and he was saying 95% of the FBI supports Trump, but the problem is the top 5% that are running the FBI. That's the problem, right?
Yes, that is the problem. And, my hope, my advice to people like Trump and to other people when you're making hiring decisions, don't just say, oh, this person went to Harvard or Princeton or Yale. Look at everybody and choose people based on merit and their ability to perform, not based on what school they went to. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what school anybody went to.
Irrelevant.
It's completely irrelevant. Results and performance are all that matter. And I think a lot of the people monopolizing the mechanisms of power in corporate spaces and in government is because they're routinely given these positions because of the schools they went to. Right. And these schools produce people that hate this country.
It's true. And now they're pushing this DEI stuff.
Oh, it's crap.
Why can't it be based off results like it used to be?
Because they want to find a way to play the victim card. They want to find a way to make it not based on results so they can have controlled opposition everywhere they need it.
Yeah. Did you see Kamala's trying to be black now?
It's crazy. I thought Trump was brilliant when he was confronted with that
those three girls attacked him.
Oh, they really did. And they were saying he's a racist and this and that, but it's not true because Trump addressed everybody in that room just the way he would anyone else in the world.
Right.
The argument that, the people were essentially making is that these black female journalists need to be treated with kid gloves. I mean, that's racist in itself, right? You talk to people, treat people equally across the board, right? And you can't then say, oh, you can't talk to me like that because I'm a woman, or you can't talk to me like that because I'm black, or you can't go talk to me like that because I'm whatever it is. When a man treats everybody the same, he's inherently not prejudiced. He's inherently, treating people with equity and inclusion, right? But they take it, they shape it and smooth it to achieve some kind of weird end that he doesn't entertain, I don't entertain, and this doesn't like you entertain it either. And that's a good thing. And hopefully that this DEI thing will expire sooner than later.
I hope so, man. We got to fight against that.
Yeah.
Because it's hurting companies.
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing hundreds of millions in revenue, that's going to hurt a lot of your revenue.
Right. It really will. If that's something that you subscribe to, right? You can play ball or not. Like you have banks that look at ESG, and you have certain corporations that look at ESG and diversity, equity, inclusion. But then you have this other, I don't want to say it's even an alternate economy, but you have this other economy, this other group of businesses that are coalescing together that are saying, look, if you don't want to deal with that, come do business with us. And I think that that's the wave. I think that that's the future. I honestly think that there's more money and there's more people invested in the newer model than this other communist thing that comes from China in the banking system. It's not going to work. All it does is stifle the economy, kill growth, and put the wrong people in positions that they should not be in.
All right. How are you feeling about this election? Are you nervous at all?
I'm very nervous.
Same.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to because in our world, a bunch of Trump supporters, but then you see these polls and you're like, damn, it's pretty close.
Look, I love J.D. Vance. I've been following his career for a long time. He's a traditional Catholic. I'm a traditional Catholic. I think he's brilliant. I think that he does, to a large extent, relate to people who are in a Rust Belt, which is why one of the reasons, in addition to his intelligence and his leadership capabilities and his military service, that that's probably why they chose him. Mm-hmm. But I do think globally, he was probably the wrong choice for this election. If it were me, I'm staunchly pro-life, but if it were me, I would have probably chose Tulsi Gabbard first, and then maybe Ben Carson second. But you need either a woman or a member of the minority community, not based on diversity, equity, inclusion principles, but you need that because you want to speak to everybody.
Right.
And the idea that he chose essentially like another white dude at the end of the day, I don't think that that's a good look to get the job done. And getting the job done is really all that matters right now. And I don't hear any excitement like about, Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be appointed to this, Tulsi Gabbard is going to be appointed to this, and there's going to be diversity amongst the board members. So, if you're a member of this community, or you're a member of that community, you look at Trump's team, right? It doesn't necessarily look like some team that you can't relate to. And Trump, look, he appointed the first openly gay person to the cabinet. The architect for Trump Tower, when it was built, was a woman.
Yeah.
Like, he's been ahead of the game on all this stuff for a long time. So I think that this was a missed opportunity to speak to half of the voting population, which is female, and to maybe open up the conversation to some other stuff. I think that Trump probably should have done it because of how white and how rich and how outspoken he is, and some of the social issues that he has that certain groups feel about him, right, negatively. I think it would have been an opportunity to have somebody who could mend fences and say, look, this guy isn't who you think he is. If you're an independent voter, come on over, right? Whereas with Kamala, even though she's dumb as a bag of bricks, right, people are going to vote for her because she's a woman. People are going to vote for her because she's black. People are going to vote for her because she's a minority. And people are going to vote for her because they think she's a good candidate, right? And because she's a Democrat.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should underestimate the power of Barack Obama being behind her, the Democratic machine being behind her, and or we should be like, Trump's definitely going to win. No, that's the furthest thing from the truth. He's not definitely going to win, and I'm not hearing anything from that camp about, we're going to make sure that there are election integrity procedures in place. We're going to make sure the ballot boxes are being watched.
Right.
We're going to make sure this, that. What's going on? I don't know. So I am uncomfortably nervous.
Same.
I remain hopeful. I think obviously that he's the best guy for the job, and if he can save the country. I think that if Harris gets in, that we're in a world of trouble. But I've been increasingly critical of how they're managing the coming fight for election integrity and for winning the presidency, because I don't see anything that looks much different from 2020.
Right. They're still doing mail-ins, right?
Yeah, of course.
Still doing mail-ins. Now they're saying some states will allow legal immigrants to vote.
It's insanity.
It's nuts.
It's insanity, and there should be a coalition of governors and people from these states working with him to ensure that that there is integrity and that these people cannot vote. But the more people, other than a very small handful of people, I've met a lot of people in government right now, and Trump is not included in this comment. I've met a lot of people in Congress and in the Senate and here and there, and they're some of the most unimpressive people I've ever met in my life.
That's crazy.
It's
What a statement.
It's very disappointing.
I wonder how it gets to that. Like, that's crazy to me. They should be the brightest people. Like, they have the most responsibility in our country.
They're just not. And the ones who are bright, the ones who are aggressive, the ones who really do care, one of the biggest problems that they have is that their offices, their staff members are entrenched with the opposition, right? It's not like, a congressman comes in, he brings all these people with him. It's like he brings a few people, but then you have all these people that are there already, and the people that are there already know the relationships and know how the swamp works, and they often prevent things from getting to a congressperson's desk, or if it needs to go the other way, they prevent the job from actually getting done. So if I was elected to Congress, which I'm not running, but if I were ever elected to Congress, I would clean sweep of the entire office, to make sure I have everybody in there who's aligned with the way that I see the world in order to get the mission done. But that's just not reality in D.C. right now.
Crazy. Yeah, your top tweet actually is that you want a leadership position at the DOJ, right?
I would take a leadership position at the DOJ. I do want one. It would be a massive pay cut for me, but that's okay. I think that I can make a difference. I know how the swamp works. I know how New York City politicians work. I know the points of intersection between corruption and money and government. And I am somebody who, I'm a great networker. I can meet and talk with people, but at the end of the day, I'm not there to make friends. I am there to get the job done, to make sure that if I were in the DOJ, that people were held and are held accountable no matter what the cost. And if somebody is politically different than me, right, I'm not going to go after them simply because of their politics. But if there are people, and I know unequivocally that there are, who have used the mechanisms of power in D.C. to achieve nefarious ends, like the wrongful prosecution of January 6ers, the washing of money in Ukraine, whatever it is, right? Those are the people you need to go after. Those are the people that you need to prosecute. You need somebody that's going to be tough. You need somebody that's going to be hard-nosed. You need somebody that's going to form a team, take the team off the map, isolate the team, keep it from the rest of everybody, secret indictments, don't let anybody know what's going on until you make it public, and get the job done the right way the first time around. And if not me, I hope he hires somebody. I hope he brings people in if Trump gets in that are capable. Yeah. But again, I don't see a whole lot of capable people out there. I don't see a whole lot of fighters out there. You got to be a killer. You got to be a patriot. You got to be somebody who loves people, who loves the country, and above all things, who loves justice. And right now, it's not a part of the process.
No, you'd be perfect because money can't influence you.
No.
And that's pretty rare, I feel like, in a government position.
You have to have integrity, right? You have to have integrity. One of the things that everybody likes money, right? But one of the things that Jesus did when he walked in to the church, and when he walked into the synagogue, he flipped over the money changers' table, and he said there needs to be separation between finances in the church here, right? And there should be separation to a large degree between finances and it's in the influence of lobbying or foreign money or whatever it is in DC, or investment opportunities, or Nancy Pelosi's stock tracker, whatever it is, right? That shouldn't be. That's madness. That's accepted at any level, right? So money can't be a thing. You can't. If you're a person who can be bought, you should just stay in the private sector.
Because she's making tens of millions off ordinary people's backs.
Of course.
Like when she makes money, people lose money. So.
Of course, exploitation at the highest level.
Yeah, and she's not the only one.
No. Nancy Pelosi and the Rhino establishment have more in common with each other than they do with us, and they care about monopolizing power, monopolizing opportunity, and cutting everything and everyone else out to prevent the ascent of individuals like you and individuals like me to where they are. So they do that by exploitation and oppression, for sure.
Yeah. Now I know you're going after the FBI. Is there any hope for these agencies? Vivek wants them completely gone. I don't know what Trump's stance is, but how do you feel about them?
I think the FBI is an absolute disgrace. I think that the way it works, that its leadership, that its disregard for the Constitution has rendered it unacceptably. It's a communist, despotic regime, highly politicized. It was once the creme de la creme. The absolute best thing that you wanted to do if you wanted to be involved in law enforcement is corrupt through and through and through. I think it should be disbanded. I think the federal government is too strong. I think that also that the power of the presidency should be significantly reduced. We don't live in a country where a president can just say we're going to go to war tomorrow. That started with like Vietnam and has gotten out of hand today, but it's supposed to be declaration of war by Congress before we go do this. I think the presidency should be reduced. I think these federal agencies should be cut down or diminished significantly. I think law enforcement should fall to the states. That's where it traditionally falls. And should there be connective tissue between all the organs of the United States government and with the states? Sure. But should the FBI be monopolizing the powers of interrogation and control and arrest over all of the 50 states? Hell no. So if it's a choice between continuing as is and getting rid of it, outright, my vote would be to get rid of it outright if it can't be reformed.
So what would the alternative be for federal crimes, in your opinion, then?
So, that's a good question, right? So you have federal crimes. You have to come up with a smaller version of it, rename it something else. But again, the investigative agency itself doesn't have to be the FBI. You got the DOJ to prosecute there. There should be more of a meaningful partnership between the DOJ and each state in terms of how they prosecute crimes. It shouldn't just have to be the FBI or the NSA or, let's give the IRS AK-47s to go after people who don't pay their taxes. What the hell are we doing? Like, this is insane. So let it fall to the states. Work more closely with governors. Work more closely with local law enforcement, and do it that way.
Yeah, I'd love to go back towards local communities, state, county, city. Like, that's how it should be. That's what America was.
Indeed. Principles of federalism, right? The states and the federal government are co-equal sovereigns, independent, but together. The reason why that has changed is because of federal grants to states and saying, look, we're going to give you this money, we're going to give you this pork barrel, we're going to give you this to get this highway done or to get whatever you want done. But when it comes time to vote or if it comes time to control, don't forget who your daddy is.
Yeah, they're way too powerful, man. I mean, when they raided Mar-a-Lago, I couldn't believe it.
Absolute insanity. And
nuts. Trump, I just found out, beat that case, and not one outlet reported that.
Of course they're not going to report it because it doesn't fit their narrative. That's one of the good things about what you're doing. It's one of the good things about the world that we live in now. When I was dealing with January 6 cases in the beginning, they had the Unselect Committee come out, right? And they put two rhinos in there, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, and a bunch of Democrats to go after January 6ers and Trump, and hired people to spend millions of dollars in production to proffer a one-sided, deeply flawed narrative to the American public that an actual insurrection took place. We started the counter-revolution. We started the rebellion, the fight against them to change the public narrative on social media. When I started getting on social media and making appearances related to this stuff, people were like, you can't go on TV and talk about this. You can't use social media. I said, what are you, crazy? The world that we live in, you must, as an attorney, use social media and use the mechanisms that are available to you to form a coalition to get an alternative narrative, the truth out there, and to get people like, this is a lawyer, this is how Twitter works. Make an affiliation with this account, get more tweets, we get the stuff out there. People thought I was nuts.
Yeah.
But it worked.
It did.
And we were able to change the narrative entirely.
Absolutely. Because people were so against Tate the first few years.
Forget it, man.
Like, they thought he was a misogynist, all these things, running a sex ring, all this crazy stuff.
Absolutely all of it. False.
Yeah, all of it, yeah.
He's such a good dude, and so is Tristan. They're great. They're brilliant, right? And they refuse to bow. I mean, the UK spent over $2 billion trying to cancel him, and all they did. Oh yeah,
$2 billion.
$2 billion in climbing to this day.
They're still trying to.
Oh yeah, they're still trying to cancel him.
Gosh.
Because in the UK, their message is the emasculation of men and children, right? It is the obliteration of the family unit. It is the idea that the government is God and people should be dependent on the government and not their fathers and not their mothers and not God, so on and so forth. And his message is obviously opposite of that. But in addition to the message being the opposite of that, he made it cool, right? And he made young guys look at him and go, man, I want to be like that. Look at his body. Look at his record. Look at his business. Look at his cars. Look at the way he works, right? And that made him strong. That made him powerful. And because of that, that's why they've gone after him. Every allegation against him when it comes to human trafficking, sexual misconduct, any of that garbage is pure, unadulterated horse crap. There's not a scintilla of truth there, not even one remotely piece of truth. And when you look at the facts of the case, the stuff that's been available online and the stuff that we publish in our complaints in the defamation case, you can clearly see that these girls, the one girl who went there from Florida was there for 6 days in Romania, a total of 6 days. After day 4, she found out that she wasn't going to marry Tristan on day 6, and she got mad. So she grabbed another girl to cause a problem there and to say that they were being trafficked because this woman had a history of destroying guys' lives in Florida.
Wow.
Right? Just totally obliterating guys' lives. Right? And we built all that into our complaint. Anybody who reads the complaint can see her history, see how it ties into her targeting of Tristan, see how it ties into her targeting of the infiltration in Romania. And when they're there, they're talking about, we're lying, go on and put on tiers, we're going to get Netflix deals, we're going to get Hulu deals, we're going to win Oscars. Mom, don't have they called the embassy. I don't want the embassy to come today, have it come next week when I'm already going to London. Look, they're free to go, they're free to travel, they're free to do whatever they wanted to do. They caused a gigantic show over there for the specific purpose of getting themselves some fame so they could have the hopes of getting like a Netflix show like I Survived Tate, right? But Tate's enemies in the UK and globally amongst the world took the opportunity to use the Romanian justice system, which is very different than ours, to lock them down and to try to destroy them. But because these guys are who they are, because they're fighters, because they believe in God, because they're innocent, they refuse to give in. And, their enemies severely underestimated the power of a free man's will to survive oppression, to fight for truth, and to what can happen when David does stand against Goliath. And that's really what this situation is about. And I'm glad and I'm honored to represent them. I know that they're going to be fully exonerated, that the world will see how brutal and disgusting this attack has been into their life and into their families. And this eventually will be behind them. But right now, we're still very much in the fight.
I love it. And you turn down 99% of clients that come to you. So when you got on the phone with them, what did they say that made you want to take them on?
Well, they were like, look, we like what you're doing. We like your fight. And there was just something about the connection initially that we had that made me feel intuitively that I should take on the case. Number one. Number two, I thought that they were awesome to begin with, right? Number three, I believed in their innocence, and when I went over the information, it was very, very easy to see from moment one that they were actually innocent. So I felt duty-bound, compelled, excited, and I just don't like the whole cancellation thing anyway. Yeah. So taking them on was the no-brainer. When I met them in person, it was like we knew each other for a very long time, like 100 years.
Nice.
We cut from the same cloth. We come from similar backgrounds. We have similar stories. I obviously don't have their level of success, right? But I have my own level of success. And we're fighters, and we're believers in God, and we're growing and reforming and changing all the time. And all of it spoke to me. It felt providential, so I took it and I went with it, and never looked back.
Nice. This is a huge case, man.
Yeah, it's great.
I think when they get exonerated, it's going to change the world.
Yeah. I hope it does.
I think it will.
I hope it does.
Because there's still people that believe they're bad people, like.
People believe what they want to believe. I mean, look what just happened with Trump. He just beat that case in the document case in Florida, and people don't even care. Right?
I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Until he went on Aiden Ross. Like, I literally had no idea.
Yeah, it's insane. But Andrew and Tristan, their position in the world is unique. Their reach is global. Their exoneration will be powerful. I'm going to be glad to be there to continue to be a part of it and to make sure that it happens. And, I'm excited to see what the world brings after this is behind us and we're having this conversation 15 years from now.
Oh, yeah. What a transformation you've been on, man. You voted for Obama?
I did.
Was that both times?
I voted for him the first time. I don't think that I even voted the second time.
Okay.
So I voted for him the first time. I believed in the hope and in the change.
Yeah, he got my dad on that too.
Yeah, he got me for sure. I just didn't identify with George Bush. That whole thing, and then the next guy who ran, McCain, and then it was Romney. Like I thought it was time for change, and he's a lawyer. I was aspiring to be a lawyer at the time. I just saw a lot of things that I felt that we shared in common, and I bought into his line of and then when he went after the institution of marriage, and then when he allowed genocide to happen to Christians, in particular Assyrian Christians in Syria and in Mosul and Iraq. And I knew that ISIS was a creation in part by the CIA and other organizations. And when I saw that they were crucifying little girls and cutting their heads off and putting animal heads where the other head used to be and people and wiping people out in the street that were all Christians, and he didn't do anything, it broke my heart. It made me feel responsible. I had to take some time to pause to consider how I was going to move forward, and I was disillusioned with the political process until Trump came out and started just spitting fire and facts and truth. Love him or hate him, he says things, he calls things like they see it, like he sees them, and I said, yeah, this is the guy for me. So I went from being I was a Democrat, then I was a registered independent for about 5 years. And then a couple of years ago, I registered as a Republican.
Wow.
And now I'm a Republican for now. Look, I am as MAGA and America First as a guy can ever be. And I will be with this party to the day I die, so long as this party maintains that system of belief and values, right? But should it change? Well, then we'll have that conversation later, because I'm not just going to be like a Democrat and just be a part of the party just because, right? They have to earn my spot. They have to earn my vote continually, no matter how much I love them. And that's how you have accountability to some degree, and you can ensure that your elected representatives actually carry out the will of the voter.
It's mind-blowing what's happening to the left, because I grew up in Jersey, super left. So
right.
I was left my whole life. But to see where it's at now, it's unreal.
It's insane.
I can't believe it.
It's insane. You know, there is, it's just people are really liberal, and they just really hate Trump there. And there's just this system of an attack on the family. It's just, when you depart from God, when you depart from traditional values, right, you just open yourself up to nothing matters. And it's just the party of it went from being the party of free love and free will and liberalism and championing human rights to becoming its own secular humanistic religion unto itself that persecutes its religious enemies if you don't bow to the party that's in power. It's it's communist, it's socialist, it's anti-Christic, it's
satanic.
It's satanic. It is satanic.
I can't believe it's gotten to this point, man. Because I grew up thinking Republicans were evil.
Yeah, me too.
Nuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was in Jersey, New York.
Yeah. But what did we know? We did what we were told, and
we were programmed.
Yeah, we were programmed. My father was always like, son, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You'll smarten up when you start making some money and you see what's really going on in this universe. I love you. I'm never going to agree with those beliefs, and you'll come around. And I did. But I think that's the difference between me and some other people who didn't have that.
Right. Would you represent Alex Jones if he contacted you?
Yeah. I've spoken to him before. He's a good guy.
You think that whole thing, the Sandy Hook thing, was a bit extreme with the settlement?
$1 billion? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. Right, look, Alex Jones, love him or hate him, has been like freaking Nostradamus when it comes to certain issues.
He predicted a lot.
A lot of things. And I remember when I first seen him, it was a long time ago, 20 years ago, when he had that interview with David Gergen in the street in New York when he exposed the Bohemian Grove. And I was like, who is this guy? I love this guy, and then he just became like the king of all rabbit holes, which, I love to dive into. And he said a lot of wild stuff, but he was right on so many things. Love him or hate him, he has a right to say whatever he wants to say, how he wants to say it, when he wants to say it, because this is America. And look, do I agree with his position on Sandy Hook? No. Do I think that, they're putting stuff in the water to the extent that it makes people gay and frogs gay? Maybe. I don't know.
Definitely sick.
Yeah, definitely sick. Do I think that he should have had $1 billion judgment against him for Sandy Hook stuff? Absolutely not.
It's terrible because he can't even live now. It's all going towards the settlement, right?
Yeah, it's not fair.
Put him out of business.
It's what they do.
He had a thriving company too.
Yeah, man. InfoWars and all the stuff that he was doing. Somebody should come to help him.
Yeah, I wish they had you, man. What about James O'Keefe? Would you represent him?
Yeah, I mean, James O'Keefe is a good guy. He's another guy. I've been to some of his parties. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Were you at his birthday party?
Yeah. No, not the one in Brooklyn, but the last one I was at was the Project Veritas party when he was still there.
Oh, nice.
I think that was
He just won, I believe, against Project Veritas, which was great to see.
Good, yeah. It was in Miami. Yeah, and he should win. But he's another guy who exposing people, and you make a lot of powerful enemies very quickly. I think that what he has done is important to be able to see people who are a part of whatever machine, whether it's Pfizer or the government, actually say the stuff that we all know and believe, and then he puts it out there. A guy like that should be uplifted and rewarded in the world we live in. But unfortunately, because the people who are in control are able to deploy their minions to go after people like him, he's dealing with what he's dealing with. But he's a resilient dude.
I love it. Dude, it makes you really wonder how many people in prison are actually innocent.
A lot of people in prison are innocent.
It's crazy.
A lot.
A lot of people can't afford a lawyer.
Right. A lot of people can't afford a lawyer, and if you don't have meaningful counsel, and if they say, look, we want you to do 125 years in jail or 50 years in jail or 60 years in jail because we're charging you with all these felonies. But if you take this deal and you'll go to jail for 5 years or 10 years, people often take it because the idea that you could blow trial and lose your life, when weighing that against a few years, people generally just settle and they say, look, I'll recoup and I'll recover. But most people, once they go into the prison system, it changes you.
Yeah.
At your core.
It does.
Yeah.
Look what happened to your brother, man.
It's a horrible up. It's really up.
Yeah, the stress of just trial in general, like that could eat on people.
Yeah. Yeah, it can definitely eat on people. It's a battle for your soul. It's a battle for your freedom. And, in normal circumstances, the punishment for your crime in this country is supposed to be the deprivation of your freedom. But the deprivation of your freedom, as we know, is the minimum bar. They put you into horrible, horrible, inhumane situations where all types of heinous things can happen. And, when you go in, you're lucky if you come out with all your faculties still intact.
Especially if you're in solitary. I mean, do you think they should get rid of that completely?
Yes. Yeah, I think that the gold standard for the solitary confinement is the Nelson Mandela rules. That's the international standard for the rules on solitary confinement. Nelson Mandela famously in solitary for 27 years for political reasons before he became president. And solitary confinement is defined by the rules and by most countries as 22 hours or more of captivity in a cell, absent meaningful human contact. And you have two types of solitary. You have regular solitary, and then you have prolonged solitary. Prolonged solitary is solitary for more than 15 days. So it's 15 days or greater. Prolonged solitary confinement is defined by international law, by many states, New York State, for example, as torture. You can't do it, you shouldn't do it. When people have a mental incapacity or a physical infirmity, or if they're pregnant, you shouldn't do a day in solitary ever because of what it can do to you. So what we do know is that 65% of the people who are in prison have mental issues. A lot of these people, because they have these issues, they can't function in general population because they get preyed on and they can't socialize the right way. Most prisons aren't equipped to deal with them, so they take these people with mental issues and put them in prolonged solitary confinement as a means to an end to keep them from getting hurt. But what they do is they destroy their brain, mind, body, and soul. And when they come out, they can no longer reintegrate into real life. And they have to be institutionalized, or you often see them on the streets in a city that has good weather.
Wow, that's terrible. And these prisons are overcrowded too.
Overcrowded, and lots of, and it's a business.
Oh yeah,
it's a for-profit industry.
The repeat rate is, I heard, really high too.
Recidivism, yeah. Once you go in, sometimes people get so institutionalized that they don't know how to function on the outside, so they commit another crime purposefully to go back.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Holy crap, because they don't know how else to live.
No, they need to be told when to rise, when to sleep, when to eat, when to do all this stuff. They just can't function. That's called being institutionalized.
We have one of the worst prison systems here, right, in the U.S.?
It's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, there are some other countries that have bad ones too. I wouldn't want to go to prison like in Mexico or in the Congo, right? But our prison system here is no joke. And in particular, what's really egregious about it is our pretrial lockups are really bad. You have D.C. jail famously. You have famously Rikers Island, right? This is a place where people are supposed to go to when they can't get bailed out or where they're in jail pending trial. So you haven't been proven guilty yet, but you can get shot, stabbed, raped, killed, put in the box during the pendency of your trial, even though you're not innocent. That's a violation of your constitutional rights, your Fifth Amendment right to due process. It's wrong. It happens all the time. But often the people who are in jail, society says, well, you must have done something wrong. So there's really no fight there.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's how I used to view prisoners, to be honest. Growing up, I thought everyone was guilty. You know, you're in prison. But now my opinion on that has changed a lot. That's good. Well, you're growing. Yeah, dude. Were you even allowed to talk to the Tates when they were in prison in Romania? Yeah, we had mechanisms under which we could speak to each other. And then they got out. And then we got them off of house arrest. And then we got them from house arrest, able to travel the whole of Romania. So that case is trending in the right direction. Prison in Romania is not great, but because they are who they are and they had each other for the majority of the time that they were there, then they were separated and put in solitary as well. But these are strong dudes. These are wealthy dudes. These are dudes that can take care of themselves physically, and they had good counsel. So in terms of going to jail, it's a best case scenario for them because they were set up to survive because of who they are, because of their wealth, and because of their counsel. Nice. Joseph, it's been awesome, man. We got a really young audience. I'd love for some closing messages from you to leave off with.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, I'm a street guy from Brooklyn of mixed race who, when I went to school, most of my teachers told me I would never be nothing in life. But because I believed in myself, I believe in God, I listened to my mom and dad, and, I saw that there was a lot of truth in what they were saying early on in life. I was able to figure it out. I had something very horrible happen to me in my life. That was a tragedy for my family, but out of that tragedy, I chose to do something good. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because we live in a world that wants you to be weak. We live in a world that wants you to be docile. We live in a world that tells you that the government is somehow necessary or pivotal to your success. Nothing could be further from the truth. If there's something that you want to do in this world, and if you're passionate about it, you can do it. You just have to apply yourself. You have to be willing to lose friends. You have to be willing to lose money. You have to be willing to lose sleep. But if you're consistent, if you're driven, if you're filled with faith, if you're filled with purpose, there's no limit on what you cannot do. The other thing I'll say is, I know it's not popular today in a lot of circles, especially amongst the young, to believe in God. But I would say to give God a chance. You would be amazed at what you can accomplish when you invite the creator of the universe into your life and you turn over the mechanisms of control in your life to him and you say, I am your servant. I am here to serve you. Give me the ability, empower me to do good on this earth. God will do that if you let him. Believe in yourself, believe in God, believe in this country, and believe in positivity, and things will work out in the end. Don't buy into the negativity. Don't consume the negativity. Things are not as bad as they seem. We will all get through this. Be positive, make money, love your neighbor, find a good person to marry and love in this world, and be well.
Powerful. I love it. Thanks so much, Joseph.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.
God bless you.
You too. Thanks for watching, guys, as always. See you next time.